start turning on the heat. But before you do, you should make sure you have your carbon monoxide detectors working. The message from one mother who lost sons in a tragedy. Also, there are 5 Allina ambulances running in River Falls, but 2 broke down within 24 hours recently. So a paramedic is now speaking out after this happened while they were transporting a patient. Plus, the Vikings are coming off of a bye week, but we are still waiting to hear who will be starting at quarterback on Sunday. So what we do know, we'll talk about that coming up.
All right, let's start things off, though, with Chief Meteorologist Ian Leonard on this really beautiful Monday. Wow.
And here's it's time for a weather quiz. Yesterday, we were cloudy, we were rainy, we were windy, but it was almost 10 degrees warmer. Today, not as warm, but plenty of sunshine. What's the better day?
Great.
Feel free to buzz in anytime. Please use your buzzer. I can't hear you unless you use your buzzer.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yes, go ahead, Simone.
Mine would be a smart aleck answer, and it would be like when the rain stopped yesterday, because it was actually really nice when I walked the dog last night.
Hang on, just checking with our judges.
That's not a part of the answers? Okay, multiple questions.
Sorry, that's an unacceptable answer. You tried to please too many people.
I know.
And therein lies the rub. Every time you do the weather forecast, some people are going to be happy some of the time, and that's the fact. Now, today, you look at the metro. We topped out at 60, much cooler in the low 50s, well to the northwest. It was a northwest wind. There was a bit of a spoiler, but how about the colors? We're finally getting there. Once we cool the temperatures, the trees will go, oh, wait a minute, I should be changing colors quicker and more often rather than dropping stressed leaves that are still green. Topped out right on our average high today of 60, record high 84 set back in 1956. Windy and cooler still tomorrow. Simone's not going to like it. Many people won't. We'll talk about patchy showers over the next few days, but would you believe it? If you're scoring at home, we're talking about fake summer number 4 come Thursday and Friday. So let's meet again here in a short while, and we'll talk about that with your 7-day forecast.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ian. It's a historic day in the Middle East. President Trump officially signing a peace agreement between Gaza and Israel alongside world leaders.
The hope and the belief that this will bring lasting peace in that region. The ceasefire brokered by President Trump brought home the remaining 20 living Israeli hostages who have been held for 2 years by Hamas, and nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, 250 of whom were serving life sentences for deadly attacks on Israelis dating back decades. Now, Israel has also promised to allow a surge of food and aid supplies into famine-stricken Gaza.
After years of suffering and bloodshed, the war in Gaza is over. Humanitarian aid is now pouring in, including hundreds of truckloads of food, medical equipment, and other supplies, much of it paid for by people in this room.
And of course, that war began when Hamas-led militants launched a surprise attack on southern Israel. It was 2 years ago on October 7th. 1,200 people, mostly civilians, were killed, 251 taken hostage. And we will have much more on this historic day coming up at 5:30.
A Douglas County couple was hospitalized Sunday night after dangerously high levels of carbon monoxide were found inside of their home. A 47-year-old woman called 911 believing she was having a heart attack and said her 49-year-old husband was having a seizure. Dispatchers suspected the symptoms were from carbon monoxide and told them to leave their house. Now, authorities believe the leak was caused by an out-of-compliance water heater and furnace. Deputies noted the couple had recently started using their furnace for the season and were unaware of any issues. The Minnesota State Fire Marshal's office launching a major campaign to give out free carbon monoxide alarms in 8 counties and encourage everyone to make sure that they have them, calling CO the hidden monster. Fox 9's Rob Olson is live at Diamond Lake Ace Hardware in Minneapolis tonight. So Rob, CO detectors are readily available and really aren't that expensive. So can you start by talking to us about this program that is giving them away?
Yeah, well, first here, I mean, the carbon monoxide detectors, plug-in versions for $27 or $35.99. 50. I guess this is the plug-in with a battery backup. I mean, so relatively inexpensive, required by law, but is part of a federal grant. Minnesota now getting funding to to give out 2,500 smoke detectors as part of a campaign this year, and in communities that have been designated is those that have the most at risk of people having carbon monoxide issues. So Austin, Bemidji, Brainerd, Duluth, Red Wing, Rochester, Virginia, Wilmer, getting carbon monoxide detectors being handed out for free. But again, encouraging people too to make sure that you have them. It's required by state law to make sure that they're in working order as well, or replaced if necessary, because of the number of lives that can be saved from this. And pretty emotional stuff today that we heard as well.
Yeah, there's really been a push here, Rob. There's also a new ad campaign from the Department of Public Safety. Where will we be able to see this ad?
Well, they're going to put it out on social media, out on web pages, on ads as well, at gas stations, screens. They're going to do some satellite radio ads as well, and we can show you some of these here. Some of the videos, they're pretty sharply produced here, just saying that aliens or werewolves or witches, those aren't the monsters you have to worry about. It's the other monster in your home, which is carbon monoxide, because it's you can't smell it, taste it, etc. It just is. That's why they call it the silent killer. And so this is the ad campaign. They say it's average of 14 people in Minnesota die from carbon monoxide poisoning every year. So they're really pushing this.
Yeah, the silent killer, also the hidden monster. Rob, someone is really speaking up about this when announcing this, a very powerful story shared by a Minnesota mother who has been very involved for decades now and just warning people about some of these dangers.
Yeah, Cheryl Burt spoke today, and she's spoken a lot over the years. It was 30 years ago, just about 30 years ago, when she and her husband and oldest son were hospitalized from carbon monoxide poisoning. And this is up near the St. Cloud area. Her two youngest sons died. She said they'd moved into an older home when they turned the furnace on in October. Then they started feeling sick, and they were going to the doctor. Couldn't figure out what was wrong. She was accused of being a hypochondriac, but then it got really cold. They turned the furnace up. The emissions from a leak that they didn't know was there increased, and just a nightmare. Here's a bit of what she said today in this press conference.
Had we plugged this in, my whole entire life would be so different. So I don't want anyone to experience the pain of carbon monoxide, the pain of losing any loved ones, the pain of having to live your life advocating for people to please put something simple into your home. There's laws now that say you gotta have them here, just do it.
Yeah, and I tell you what, the federal funding, the grant that is paying for the smoke detector giveaway is named in honor of her two sons. It was a bill pushed by Senator Amy Klobuchar and passed 3 years ago. Back to you.
Yeah, Rob, I got to tell you, when I heard you were doing this story, the first thing I did was go to Amazon and put it in my basket so I can order it. So the more we keep talking about it, hopefully it'll save even more lives. Rob, thank you.
Absolutely.
Two Allina ambulances broke down in 24 hours in western Wisconsin, including one that had a critical patient. Paramedics in River Falls telling us that their fleet is old and unreliable, but they just can't get replacements. Fox 9's Corin Hoggard is live in River Falls for us tonight. So Corin, they say this isn't the first time they've had an ambulance break down with lights and sirens running. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Both last night and back in July during their response to the Prescott boat explosion, they had an ambulance with a patient in it, transporting the patient to the hospital, had a breakdown, had to call another agency to get an ambulance sent out to transport that patient. It's a pretty bad situation for them. They say it's a pretty bad situation for the patient as well.
I can't imagine having my loved one, my mom, my child, in an ambulance being rushed to the hospital with that ambulance broken down on the side of the road, waiting for someone else to get it, especially when the company knows this ambulance does this all the time.
The ambulance in question is this one right here. It broke down. Apparently the onboard computer software said there was something wrong with it. Not the first time that's happened, but this wasn't the only ambulance that was broken down in this parking lot when we arrived this morning. There was another one here as well, and those are two broken down ambulances out of the 5 ambulances in the fleet here at the River Falls Ambulance Services. So that's 40% of their ambulances broken down today, and they're not the only ones with problems.
Corin, I imagine there's all kinds of, equipment, and that dashboard must have all kinds of things on it. So is the problem just these sort of technical issues, or is it a physical issue with them breaking down? What exactly is going on?
Depends on the ambulance. It's a little bit of a different problem for each one. This one, like I said, it was the onboard computer software that detects some bigger emergency problem frequently, but they can't ever seem to find what that problem really is. The other one that was broken down here today actually just had its starter go out after it did make a trip to the hospital. There's a third ambulance here that just last week had such severe steering problems that paramedics said it was dangerous to drive, but it also has a radio that's malfunctioning, which may be a violation of Wisconsin law. So the one thing that they all have in common, though, Amy, is that they're relatively old, 10 years and older. This one I think is 17 years old. They all have a lot of miles, 200,000 plus, and they also spend a lot of time just idling their engine because they have to go out to various places to cover all over western Wisconsin.
So is Allina saying anything to the paramedics as far as how they're going to try to fix this? Have they talked to us at all, commented on what they're going to try to do to fix it?
Yeah, I reached out to them, and they say that this is not something they want to happen. They say they take these ambulances in and make sure they get serviced every 8,000 miles, and they have these onboard computer software that is supposed to detect more serious issues, but that is actually what's stopping this one here. Beyond that, though, I asked specifically about the problems, the ongoing issues that the ambulances here are having, and they did not address that.
All right, Corin, thank you.
You got it.
We are starting one of the most anticipated weeks of fall. The MEA school break starts on Thursday.
Yeah, it's a tradition this time of year. A lot of families, maybe some of you, just pack on up and head out of town. Our airport, really popular, as we know, so probably expect a lot of travelers there. Our Tim Blatt's joining us now. Tim, this is a weekend so many students and families look forward to. It's become like a vacation tradition for a lot of people, right?
It really is, right? There's nothing like a quick trip to recharge all of our batteries, and MSP will provide a gateway to do that for a lot of people this week. Now, I talked to Jeff Lee at the airport this afternoon, and I had him crunch some of the numbers for us. And we may have one day this week that will likely become a top 10 volume day at MSP since the pandemic. So that gives you some scale as to how many people will travel this week. So based upon the data from the airlines and MSP, we're expecting a 19% increase in passenger traffic compared to the weeks all leading up till right now. So let's break down the days, starting with Wednesday, because we're expecting 50,000 people to go through the passenger gates there at TSA. On Thursday, technically, this is the first day of MEA break. 52,000 people expected through security on Thursday alone. This will be the busiest day of the week and likely that top 10 day that I was talking about. The third biggest day is going to be on Sunday when everyone comes back. 48,000 people expected then. And to beat the rush of people trying to catch their flights and get out of here on Wednesday and Thursday, the airport has added what they call this flex lane at Terminal 1. So if you go up the departure lane and you kind of go up that ramp and then you turn left, keep turning left, you'll get to this brand new flex lane. So you can get into this and you can actually take the Skyway then over back into the terminal. So with that many people coming through, they're still asking you to get there plenty ahead of time, right? 2 hours for a domestic flight if you're heading out there, 3 hours ahead of time if you're actually flying overseas. And finally here tonight, another thing to think about too. This is relatively new at MSP. It's called MSP Reserve. And with this, you can actually sign up for a time slot to go through security there at the airport to get you to your gate. And you can find all of this and sign up at mspairport.org. So it's going to be a busy week at the airport, but hopefully smooth sailing for everyone, Amy.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Out east, there are several states just getting slammed by heavy rain, strong winds, there's some flooding. This nor'easter is moving through.
Yeah, we'll take you live to Rhode Island coming up next. Plus, the Vikings are coming off of their bye week, and head coach Kevin O'Connell isn't naming a starter quarterback just yet.